Good morning, all. Our today's presentation, our today's lecture is based on uh, two concepts, major two concepts, object-oriented approach and object-oriented analysis. Okay, and these are the contents we will discuss in this lecture. First is general introduction about the concepts. Second one is features of object-oriented approach. Uh, Object-oriented paradigm and object-oriented process model, whereas concepts related to object-oriented methodology. Then we will discuss about object-oriented analysis, which is the uh, another most important topic uh, after the in the previous class we had discussed about the object-oriented designing, and in this class we will discuss about the object-oriented analysis. Then we will discuss about the uh, uh, difference between conventional and object-oriented approach, conventional approach and object-oriented approach. Then a part of UML is there in your course, so we will discuss about the unified approach to object-oriented analysis, and then lastly we will discuss about domain analysis and use cases. Okay, so let us start with object-oriented approach. Uh, it is basically object-oriented approach is basically centralized around data, which is accessed by the basic entities of object-oriented approach, that is objects. So you can say that objects are the basic entity of object-oriented approach. Any of the object-oriented approach, you are uh, whether you are working whether you are working with the object-oriented designing or object-oriented analysis or any other approach, you the basic entity of object-oriented approach is object. Okay, there are some features of object-oriented approach. The first feature is object-oriented technology uses the concept of reuse. Okay, which is the problem in 1960s resolved here with this object-oriented approach, because earlier before the software invention of software engineering or concept of software engineering, the reusability of software is not there. So uh, uh, object-oriented technology uses the concept of reuse, which leads to faster software development and higher quality programs. So if you want to make your programs high quality programs, if you or softwares, if you want to make software reusable, you should use the object oriented approach, you should adopt the object oriented approach. The second feature, first thing, it makes your software reusable. Second thing, object oriented software is easy to maintain. Why it is so? Why it is easy to maintain, easier to maintain? Because its structure is inherently decoupled. As I earlier said in the design process, that coupling coupling is coupling makes your software complex. So if you decouple the modules, how to decouple the modules? If you decouple the modules, you can reduce the complexity of your in your software. So uh, coupling is essential, it is required, and object oriented approach provides you this facility to decouple or minimize the coupling level. Okay, this property leads to fewer side effects also when changes are to be made, but due to relationship between modules. Okay, coupling means relationship between modules. So when you are removing a module from your software, or when you are adding some new module in your software, so such type of problems may occur. So some side effects are also there, but uh, uh, object oriented approach provides you a better or quality software. And secondly, it reduces the complexity in your software design. Okay, the third and most important is object oriented systems are easier to adopt and easier to scale. If you are not because as we earlier discussed that how to Kokomo suggests that how to uh, estimate the project, how to estimate the time, how to estimate the cost, how to estimate the staff. Okay, these are the key. How to estimate the quality. Okay, so through the object oriented approach, and we earlier we also discussed about a formula how to calculate the efforts per module. Okay, so object oriented systems are easier to adopt and easier to scale, because without scaling of your uh, software project, you cannot serve the project to your client. Okay, so you have to rank it as it is a small project or it is a big project or it is a semi-detached project or whatever it is. So scaling is necessary, and object-oriented approach will provide you the scaling facility. Okay. Next is there are several technologies in object-oriented technologies involved, object-oriented requirement analysis is the part of object-oriented approach. Object-oriented design is the part of object-oriented approach. Object-oriented domain analysis is the part of the object-oriented approach. Object-oriented database systems are the part of object-oriented approach. And lastly, object oriented computer aided software engineering means OOCASE case. Okay. Object oriented computer aided software engineering is the technology which is associated with the object oriented approach. So there are some technologies available, or you can say involved in within the software object oriented approach. I'm repeating again. First is object oriented requirement analysis. We can say it ORA, which is the technology which is associated with the object oriented approach. Second is object oriented design. Third is object oriented domain analysis and object oriented database systems. Okay. So when you are working, you are making software through object oriented approach. Uh, a backend is also working should work accordingly. Okay, so object oriented database systems are there associated with this approach, and object oriented computer aided software engineering tools, case tools. Okay, these are the essential technologies available in the or associated with the object oriented approach. Okay, so what is the use of object oriented software engineering tools? We had discussed earlier that software engineering tools provides you the easiest method uh, to work or to help. They are used to help you to make a software easily. Okay, so software case tools are very much required when you are going to develop some project. Okay, now the next part is object oriented process model. It is a very much important thing. Software object oriented process model. There are some steps. The first step is all the requirements or basic problems classes are understood by the developer, makes a plan, consider the risk analysis. So do you remember the spiral model? There are several segments. There are basically four segments. First phase is in the spiral model. First phase is the planning, related to the planning. Second is related to the risk analysis. Third is related to the development, and fourth part is related to the planning. I remember this.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So uh, spiral model is the basic model you can use for elaborate the object oriented process model. Okay, it provides you the better understanding about the object oriented process model. So what are the steps? First step is identify classes. Okay, so all the requirements and basic problem you should identify the objects. Okay, first, and make a plan. Consider the risk analysis. Okay, this is all about first step. You can do it in this manner. In the first step, or you should yeah, identify all requirements. You should understand the client's need. You should make a plan, and you should consider the risk analysis. Okay, as a solution. Okay, then, firstly, the classes are identified and checks whether they already exist in the library for further use or not. Because in the object-oriented approach, when we are discussing about the data and we are discussing about the reusability of concept, so what is needed? Whether the classes or whether the data is already available in the system or not. If it is not available, then we have to create. And if it is already available, then what is the need to create again? Okay, so the classes are identified in this step. Classes are identified and checked whether they are already exist in the library for further use or not. Okay, this is the second step. Third step, if they are exist, they can be extracted and can be reused either directly or with some modifications. Okay, if they are available, if classes are available, if these objects or these data, such type of data is already available, then why we should create it? Okay, so you can extract, if they are exist, you can extract all of them and uh, use them directly or through some with some modifications. Okay, if they don't, the next step, if they don't, they have to be built up. You should build up. It is the primary requirement that if data is not available, if the objects are not available, if the classes are not available, you should create the classes. Okay, you should create the data as per the user requirement. So if it is available, fetch them. If it is not available, create them. Okay, then after using them, if it is required, then new classes can be put in the library for further use. You should identify, not only use the classes available, you should identify that if more classes are required, then you should create and add in the library. Okay, this is the basic phenomena. Don't use don't Do not use only available classes. You should make, if requirement says that some classes are needed, you should make them, you should build them and add them in the library also. Okay, for further use. Lastly, after that, the customer evaluates the product and he may give his feedback. So feedback is important. After all, customer is important. After all, client is important. Client organization important for a developer. When you are making some software, and you have a biased view about your software because you have put it, you had put your all efforts in making the software. You have incorporated all your ideas, all your logics. Okay, so you are very much biased. You have हर कोई कहता है ना कि मेरा सॉफ्टवेयर सबसे बढ़िया है, तो इवेलुएट कौन करेगा? कस्टमर शुड इवेलुएट. यू शुड प्रोवाइड योर model or your prototype or your final product to your customer, and let him check that whether he is satisfied or not with uh, your project. Okay, project provided by you, and his feedback is also very much important for you. Okay, so uh, o process model, object oriented process model, uses the evolutionary spiral model approach. And it is a basic approach, it is a very important approach. Nowadays we are in the software industry, we are using this approach only. So I am repeating again, it is a very much important concept. OO process model, object oriented process model. First step, you identify the classes, whether it is exist, you can use it, whether it is not, then you if it is not available in the library, you should create it. And you should add the classes as per the requirement, and you should make the classes as per the requirement, and you should add them to the library for further use. Okay, then uh, you have to provide your evaluationary model to your client for evaluation, proper evaluation, and his feedback. You should uh, call for feedback. Okay, so if feedback is provided to you, it will be helpful for you for further improvement in your software. Okay, so this is all about the process, object oriented process model. The steps are very simple. You can use it in your when you are doing some, you are making some project. Okay, now some basic concepts related to object oriented methodology. We are discuss now some basic concepts related to object oriented approach or methodology, like classes and objects. So I think there is no need to provide discuss the classes and objects and abstraction and attributes and operation and method. Is it needed? Okay, I will explain you in brief what is what it is, because you have already worked with C++ and Java. So there is which is languages, those are related to the object oriented uh, approaches. So object oriented methodology. So you I think you all are aware, very much aware about the classes and objects. I will give you a brief about them, and then we will proceed for object oriented analysis part. Okay, so first of all, we will discuss about the classes and objects. I'm reminding you that a class is a unit of data abstraction. Okay, a class contains all the codes that relates it to its objects. The code encapsulates first the description of how the objects of the class are structured, and secondly the methods that implement the behavior of the object. So there are a class is the you can call it as a data abstraction. Class is the example of data abstraction, and it encapsulate two things. First is a description of how the objects of the class are structured, and second the methods. Okay, methods that implement the behavior of the object. What is object? Object represents some entities, access methods from its parent class, and has attributes that distinguish them from other objects in the system. The data of an object can only be accessed by the method associated with that object. So you can say that object is the collection of data and methods. So what is the formula of object? How you define an object? Object is equal to data plus methods. Okay, so you can represent an object as a combination, or you can say collection of data and methods. Okay, data is the center part and methods are surrounding part of the data. Okay, so uh, for example, in the case of an uh, uh, employee working of an employee, what is the object? Employee is the object. What is the data? Name and basic pay is the data. And what is the method? Computation of salary and computation of tax which he should pay is a method. We can call it as a method. Okay, so uh, in this example, employee is the object, data is the name, and basic pay is the data of employee data in this class, and the salary and tax, calculation of salary and calculation of tax is the method. Okay, or you can consider any other example similar to this. Now the second thing is attributes. What is attribute? An object can be viewed as having various attributes of the object whose values from the state of the object. For example, any human having attributes like what what kind of attributes you are having? Suppose, for example, what kind of attributes you are having? You are having your name, you are having your date of birth, you are having your parents, your eye color, etc. Okay, so any human being attributes like name, date of birth, his parents' name, eye color. Okay, these are the attributes in the case of human beings. So the object can be viewed as having various attributes of the objects whose values from the state of the object. Okay, then what is the operation and methods? Object encapsulates data and algorithm that process the data, and these algos are called operations and methods. So remember, object encapsulates what? Object encapsulate data and algorithm that process the data. Algorithm for processing the data. So data and algorithm that process the data is called as object. So as I earlier said, the data is the central part and surrounding part is methods. So how to access the data, what are the methods, what are the algos used, okay, to process the data are the surrounding part of data. So these algos are called operations and methods. Okay, how to fetch the data. In the earlier example, I said that salary calculation of salary and calculation of tax is the method. You can say it is the operation. Okay, so each of the method that is encapsulated by an object provides a representation of one of the behavior of the object. Methods may or may not contain parameters for their execution. So uh, I am repeating again that what is operation and method? Operation and methods are surroundings of the data. Okay, they provides you they are the part of object, and they provides you they represents the behavior of the object, and they provides you sometimes they provides you the parameters for their execution. Okay, but it is not as essential. Okay, now messages are also a part of object oriented methodology. Messages are the means by which object interact. It simulates some behavior to occur in the receiving object. The behavior is accomplished when an operation is executed. Like uh, when messaging, there are messages means the communication, the interaction between two objects. Okay, uh, one is sender object and second is receiver object. Okay, so one operation, when you are sending some message to another object, and another object is uh, like you can send message through sender object to the receiver end, and asking for some information or asking for some data, or okay, so when the receiver object reply you back, and send you back the information, it is called as, it is the message is completed. Okay, so messaging between two objects is the important part in the object oriented methodology. Then abstraction. There are uh, 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 abstraction means what, and what kind of abstractions available in object oriented approach? Can you tell me? Is anyone there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is abstraction? Abstraction is the part of object oriented analysis. Okay, sorry, object oriented approach, and it provides helps in developing complex softwares in a simple and effective manner. Okay, so there are mainly two types of abstractions: procedural abstraction, and second is data abstraction. Because data is very large, huge. Okay, so when you are saying person, okay, and the name of the person consists of what? Various attributes. Okay, so abstraction is required. First one is procedural abstraction. Programs are built and organized around the concept of procedures. Okay, the programmer is concerned only with the details of how it is called and what it computes. It does not concern with the details of how it performs. Its computation is important. It is called as procedural abstraction. When you are a programmer and you do not you are concerned with the you are only concerned with the performance. Okay, you are only concerned with the data, and you are not concerned with the computation. You are not concerned with the procedural details. Then it is called as procedural abstraction. Okay, and in this approach, entire software package is organized into a set of procedures. One procedure is the main procedure, and which calls other procedures and leads to the procedural abstraction. Okay, so uh, in the programming, you are mentioning main function. Okay, which is the type of procedural abstraction. Second is data abstraction. So the idea in data abstraction is the group together the piece of data that describes some entities so that programmer can manipulate the data as a unit. So common abstraction and specifically responsibilities are grouped together to form a logical unit called class. So you can say that class is the type of data abstraction. Okay, okay, so these are several other concepts like data encapsulation means it is a process of localizing data definitions, hiding data. We can say it is a hiding data. Encapsulation means hiding data within an object and allowing access to it only through special functions known as member functions. So uh, data abstraction is there. Inheritance, various types of inheritance are the part of uh, object oriented methodology. So we are there are several things. Polymorphism is there. Okay, so there are various things, and some uh, uh, major object oriented issues are also there, like dynamic binding is there, function overriding, operator overloading, and message communication. Okay, uh, means simple message, how to send simple message, how to send synchronous messages, and timed messages and asynchronous messages. Okay, so these are the concepts related to the object oriented methodology, which are very much related to the object oriented methodology, and it is advised to you to learn and uh, to learn all the concepts thoroughly from your and practically in your with your programming languages like C++ and C++ and Java. Okay, so uh, I am not elaborating it again. I am not discussing it again because there is some limited time, and we are. Although I have discussed about class, object, and main methods, operations, and all abstraction. Okay, the main functions of main concepts of object-oriented methodology. Now we will come to the very important, very concerned part of software engineering, that is object-oriented analysis. Okay, and then we will discuss about the how the conventional analysis is different from object oriented analysis. Okay, so before the software system can be built, the classes that represent this problem to be solved, the interrelationship among the classes and the communication mechanism among the instances of classes created has to be defined clearly. It is a very much important thing that uh, you should represent your classes, and you should represent your sorry, you should represent interrelationship among classes. You should represent or identify the communication mechanism. uh, you should uh, identify the level of inheritance. Okay, so these all, when you are going to make a quality software, it is essential. During the object oriented analysis, it is essential to uh, uh, give stress on over all these issues. Okay, and object oriented analysis helps in the reasonable understanding of the system, and this understanding is then matched with the customer's perception along with the software engineering math model. So as I elaborated in the object oriented process model, the enhanced or evolutionary spiral model is very much related to the this concept of object oriented methodology. So uh, it provides object oriented analysis provides you a reasonable understanding about the system, and it provides you a better understanding your clients requirements in a better way, and it provides you the perception about the system that you will generate, you are intended to generate. Okay, so at each stage, the elements of the object oriented analysis model are viewed for clarity, for correctness, for completeness, and for consistency with customers' requirements. Okay, so we can say that object oriented analysis is the first activity, it is the very first activity being performed as the part of object oriented software engineering. So, software engineering suggested software engineering suggested the object oriented software analysis. You should perform, always perform, if you want to make quality software, you should perform the object oriented software engineering. Okay, sorry, software object oriented software and analysis. Okay, it is needed. Secondly, it encapsulates the classes representing the problem, the nature of their interaction, inner attributes of the objects, and their communication mechanism. So, object-oriented analysis provides you the information, encapsulates the classes representing the problem, and it provides you the it suggests you the nature and level of the interaction between modules. It suggests you the inner attributes of the of objects, and it suggests you, or it provides you the better way of communication with communication mechanism and communication between modules. Okay, thirdly and lastly, it provides concrete ways to present understanding of the requirements, because when you are you are making classes, when you are doing object oriented analysis, when uh, you are using object oriented process model, the first step is to understand the problem properly. So the object oriented analysis provides a concrete way to represent understanding of the requirements. Okay, so this is the purpose of object oriented analysis, and you can say that object oriented analysis is the perfect way to get the quality software, to make the quality software. Okay, to provide the quality software to your client. Okay, if you have not done the object oriented analysis in a proper way, you should not you are not able to provide the quality product to your client. Okay, some uh, some misunderstanding, some rejections may be there then. Okay. Uh, the next thing is, what is the difference between conventional approach and object oriented approach? So what is the difference? As you know that the legacy systems are based on procedural manner. They are built in a procedural manner. Okay. There is no concept of modules. There are no concept of classes. And in the object oriented methodology, object oriented analysis, you are it is separated from the procedural themselves and transform the data. In object oriented approach, data is given in a central stage. As I said earlier, that data is the central part of this uh, uh, methodology, and other methods and operations are the environment of the data or surrounding part of the data. Okay, so this is the first difference. Second is, in conventional method, system behavior is given a secondary role. On the contrary, this is the this is of prime importance of object oriented approach. And thirdly, the partitioning of data flow diagrams, okay, is very much important in the conventional way. But in the object oriented uh, methodology, you are using UML. Okay, UML diagrams. So data flow diagrams, we were using data flow diagrams in conventional methods, but we are using UML diagrams in object oriented methodology. Okay, object oriented analysis. So this is the major difference between conventional object oriented conventional analysis and object oriented analysis. Okay, have you understand?
Sir, please come
Okay,
again.
so the last and the eighth point of this presentation, the unified approach of object oriented approach, sorry, object oriented analysis. The analysis and design tools are proposed by uh, some scientists like Booch presented this object oriented approach. Jacobson presents it, this approach, and it is a very different approach, you can say. Each had a distinct way of approaching the analysis of the system, and each had its own bottlenecks. So, because each and every scientist have their own perception about the presentation of data, about the building of software. Okay, so if when there are several scientists uh, suggested the object oriented analysis, then there are some notations. There are different notations which is provided by uh, Booch, which is provided by Jacobson and other scientists. uh, they had suggested a different manner to draw UML. Okay, so these are different figures. Okay, so basically there are three methods to draw UML, and UML is you can say like a DFD, and it is a method to provide the uh, structured model view. It is provided you the behavioral model view. It is provided a user model view. It is provided the implementation model view, and it is provided by the environmental model view. So basically, unified approach or UML combines all these powerful features in the methods of uh, all three uh, all three methods. That is important. And UML represented uh, the five views, different views. As I suggested you, I elaborated you that there are five methods view presents in UML. First is structural model view, which is a static structure related to static structure, like classes, like objects, like relationship. Okay, they are modeled in structured model view. Behavioral model view, it represents the dynamic aspects of a system, and it also depicts the interaction or collaboration between various structural elements. Okay, and the user model view represents the user's perspective, and implementation model view is the structural and behavioral aspect of the system. Okay, it is a combination of structure and behavioral aspect of the system. And the last one is environmental model view, which is the structure and behavioral aspect of the environment in which the system is to be implemented or represented. Okay, so there are five views, there are five different views of UML. I am repeating again. First is structured model view of UML. Second is which is related to the static structure of uh, the software, that is class, that is object, a relationship. Okay, you have modeled all these things in a structural model view. Behavioral model view is concerned with the dynamic aspect of the system. It represents the dynamic aspect of the system, and it also depicts the interaction and collaboration between various structural elements in the system. User model view is represents the view uh, as per the user perspective. Okay, what user wants. It is the user model view is concerned with the user perspective. The implementation model view is the structural and behavior aspect of the system, and the it is a combination of first and second view. Okay, and the last one is environmental model view, which is the structure and behavior aspect of the environment in which the system is to be implemented are represented in this view. Okay, so basically UML is like a DFD, and it is basically represents five types of views. As I elaborated that there are five types of views. So this is all about unified approach of OA. It is sufficient. There are approaches. I will give you the example of each one in next few classes. Okay, then come to the domain analysis and use cases, which is a big portion of this, uh, which consists of a huge part of this chapter. So we will discuss it in detail in the next class. Yeah, so I am strike out this in this class, this point in this class. So we will discuss it in the next class. Okay. So this is all about today's class. If you have any query, then please ask. Otherwise, I am taking your attendance, and then we will
Sir, I have a question.
continue the class. Okay, I am taking your attendance. Today is 11.